Welcome. This channel is all about technology, but I've got to use it as well. Hello, my name is Paul, and this is Barebones Tech. Every so often, I'll get talking to a friend or a family member or just some random person I meet in the pub. And the subject of technology comes up, and I talk about what I've got set up at home, and then they start wanting to know more about it and what decisions I made and why I made them and what equipment I have and so on and so on and so on. And invariably that gets really difficult, particularly if you're in a bar or a pub where you haven't even got any paper to draw on and explain what's going on. So in this series of videos, my intent is to detail what I have here at home, how I've got it set up, what equipment I use, why, and so on. Added to that, right now is a good time for me to do it because I'm in the process of basically refreshing, replacing, updating, whatever you want to, however you want to put it, the equipment that I have here at home. So over the next few videos, what I intend to do is to take you along for the ride as I replace various components. I look up, even purchase stuff and show you what I've got, how I've got it set up, why I've got it set up the way I have. And if that's useful to you, fantastic. That'd be great. And if it's not useful, well, maybe you just be interested in what I'm doing. Would like to say at this point, I usually leave this to the end of the videos, but it really would help me out tremendously if you're watching these videos and enjoying them, if you wouldn't mind just hitting that subscribe button and ringing that bell. Okay, that really helps the YouTube algorithm out, and it helps me get towards my goal of getting channel monetized. Let's be honest, I'm not looking to make this my full-time career, but it would be nice to get this channel at least generating enough income to cover its own costs. So that would be nice. In this series of videos, though, I'm not intending to focus so much on the underlying principles of how it actually all works, the protocols and the bytes and all of that business. This series is much more about the practicalities of actually setting it up and making it work. Okay, I have other videos on the channel, or will have, where I go into the individual protocols and what it all means, what is network address translation, what is a firewall, all that kind of garbage. But in this video, or this series of videos, I'm just really going to go through the setup of my own system. One of the primary principles that I have when I'm doing this kind of work, in the forefront of my mind, is I don't like spending money. I will if I have to, but I like to keep my costs right down. This is entirely self-funded. So that means that for hardware, if possible, I use recycled, reclaimed hardware, perhaps was being thrown out. So it might not be the latest cutting edge technology, but it still works, it still does what I need it to do. When it comes to software, I make extensive use of public domain, open source software. I do contribute to several open source projects, financially and physically, but mostly financially, where I feel that those projects are worth my investment, worth my money, and I'm making use of them. But I don't like spending money up front on something that I might then find I don't need or use or want. So that's a big part of my whole thinking and methodology, is saving money. Okay, so to begin with, my home network. It's not that complicated, surprisingly enough. Possibly slightly more complicated than somebody who has a laptop and that's it. But overall, not massively complex. I have currently an ISP, Internet Service Provider. Their feed comes into the house. It actually terminates in my garage. In there, I have a rack, a 19-inch equipment rack, and in that is the ISP's equipment, most of which I don't use. Okay, we'll talk about this in a later video, exactly how I've got things set up and so on. I then have a reclaimed HP DL140 server, which is running Ubuntu 16.04 operating system, and that acts as my router firewall. Okay, that then connects to a 48-port gigabit power over Ethernet switch, and then hanging off that switch is the house. So when we had this house built, I got the builders to wire up for Cat5e. So each of the bedrooms has an outlet in it, an RJ45 connector on the wall, Cat5e connection. Then there's another one on the landing. There's one in the attic. Down here in this room there's one, and then there are two in the main living area. Okay, so all of those are then wired back to that switch that I have, as I say, in the garage. That provides power over Ethernet, and so my wireless access point is located in the attic, and that is powered using that power over Ethernet functionality. On top of that, I'm not a big fan of Wi-Fi, so anything that can be wired in typically is wired in. Okay, so that means any desktop PCs that we have, any gaming consoles and so on, smart TVs. If it's not a smart TV, then it has a Roku streaming device on it. All of those things are wired into the network. And so the Wi-Fi only really gets used for things like iPads, iPhones, laptops if you're wandering around with them, that kind of thing. But I really try to avoid using Wi-Fi wherever possible. I'm not a fan, personally. We'll talk about all of the whys and wherefores in another video. This is just an introduction. In addition, behind the main family room television, there is an 8-port unmanaged switch. And that's just simply used to share that port between the Roku box that I just mentioned. We also have a voice over IP telephony service that connects in there. And then every now and again, if I needed another connection, it means I've got one there that I can jack into the network if I need to. The other slightly unusual setup is actually here. This is my my rig that I use on a daily basis for work. Okay, and as you can see just here, there's also a small 8-port unmanaged switch, and that takes the signal or the Ethernet connection that comes into this room and splits it out between my printer, my PC, my laptop, a couple of other random things. And also this rather large monitor you can see here, it's actually a smart TV, so I can sit back and watch television on it directly. All of that is wired in directly through this small unmanaged switch. Finally, I've got a reclaimed DL380 server out in the garage. That it has a whole bunch of hard disks in it, and it runs an operating system called Unraid. And that acts as my main file server for backup storage of in the house. It also acts as my email server. I run my own email server here. A few other bits and pieces running on it at the moment. So that's pretty much all I've got here. So nothing too complicated. So what am I attempting to achieve in this series? Well, one of the problems with running hardware like the hardware I am running at the moment is it's quite power hungry. A DL140 from HP, a big rack mount server, draws quite a bit of power, as does its big cousin, the DL380. So I'm looking to try and reduce the power consumption by replacing those with something else, and we'll see what the something else is as we move forward. I've also had some ideas to change up the way that my internet connection works, which I'm hoping will be exciting and you'll find interesting. Again, it may be something you want to replicate, or you may feel it's overkill. Everybody's setup is different, and that's important to understand. I believe the correct term is YMMV. Your mileage may vary, okay? And I wouldn't expect anybody to duplicate exactly what I've got, but hopefully you can take what I've got, you can take my ideas, take some inspiration from it, and build out your system to meet your needs in your location, and that would be great. Let me know in the comments below what you found useful, if any of this is stuff that you're going to duplicate yourself. It would really help, again, if mention help the channel, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell, hitting the like button. Comments are always, welcome. I really do appreciate being able to read the comments. And in the next couple of videos, we're going to start on this journey, looking at the whole process of setting up what I've got here, the hardware and the software, and replacing a lot of it with something that's going to be a little more power efficient, I hope, and maybe even more reliable. So if you don't want to miss that, well, don't miss the next video. So I'll see you next time. So once again, My name's Paul. This has been Bare Bones Tech, and thank you for watching.